All right, we are live. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight on the with our Risk Takers Dream Makers project and the platform we've been using for our workshops and interviews. We've really enjoyed these Tuesday nights, and we hope y'all are enjoying them too. So if you're tuning in for the first time, awesome. Thank you. And if you've been with us many times, we're so appreciative of your support. So I'm Ann Barwick. I am the co-founder of the Risk Takers Dream Makers. And my other co-founder, Andrea Kiesling, is on the backside of all of this. She's managing the Facebook Live posts, and she'll put in links there. But give her something to do. Say hi to Andrea. Let her know you're here. And if you have any questions or comments, please, we love to hear from you. We love to hear what resonates with you. It helps guide us so we know what kinds of things we can provide for you in the future as well. So tonight we're doing a continuation of winning ways in chaotic times with the listening to understand skills. So last week we did listening to understand, and I've got these skills from my mother's book, Winning Ways to Succeed with People, 7 Powerful Skills. And last week, I totally lied to y'all. I told you this book was put out in the 70s, which I don't know why I said that, but it was put out in 1985, actually. And I'll never forget that because I'm going to tell you my age here, but it's when I was graduating from high school. And my mother, I'll never forget the box of the fresh published books coming to her office and opening them up, and just being so proud of my mother. And after watching her while I was in high school, all the years of putting all of this to work, and to see it finally in this, compiled in this book, which she ultimately went on to build a corporation around and taught in the US and the UK. And I actually got to teach some with her. So that was really special. My mother has passed. It's been about 6 years. And this is a way I love to continue her legacy and share her skills. The skills are probably familiar skills to you, like listening, right? It's a skill we all know about. What she did, which was amazing, is she had this engineer type mind where she could break everything down into very particular steps, and even built like a guideline of knowing what skill you needed to use when, if you were ever wondering about it or confused about what skill to use. So it's pretty amazing stuff. So anybody could use it because she breaks it down into very finite steps. I would say anybody can use it, but one thing she always said is that you really need to be using these skills to build relationships with coming from a place of sincerity. I think that's really important because they weren't skills that you can use for manipulation to build relationships. If you're not coming from a sincere place of wanting to build a relationship with someone, then these skills will probably not work for you in that sense. So last week we started with part 1, and I talked about her listening to understand skill. And if you missed it, no big deal. You don't have to have that to get the great skills. We're going to learn 6 steps tonight of deadly door slammers. But if you want to know those steps for listening to understand, which there's 4 steps to them, it's tune in, understand, say what you understand, and then pausing to let a person continue. And when we use this listening to understand skill, it's really a great time to use it is like, say you have a coworker that's coming to you that's upset about something. Or maybe they've got a whole new project that they need to explain to you. So you've really got to tune in and listen. Have a child that's bothered and some things that are bothering them, or you have a spouse or a partner that comes home from a really chaotic day at work and they just want to vent to you, or a friend that may be distressed and just needs just needs an ear, right? So the tune in, understand, say what you understand, and pause. And if you miss that, you can check out the video and learn more about those 4 steps by going, if you're on our Facebook page, we have all our videos there. Our videos on Friday, which I think is at RTDM. We're on LinkedIn as well. And we have our website. So you can always go to our website, therisktakersdreammakers.com, and sign up for our newsletter, because when you're on there, first of all, you'll see amazing pictures of and their stories that they'll share with you. If it feels overwhelming to go to our website and see them, I mean, they're from all over around the world. It's very cool. We break it down so you can have one a week and get an inspiring story each week. So if you want to sign up for our newsletter, it's a great way to start out your week and be encouraged to maybe go for your own dreams and take your risks as well. We also include all the videos of our interviews that we've been doing on Tuesday evenings and any of our workshops. So you'll get to have those as well. All right. So the listening to understand, you got the 4 steps. So tonight I'm going to talk about what my mother called the 6 deadly door slammers. And really, sometimes the most important thing that you do when you're listening to understand is what you don't say. It's like zip it, right? So what you don't say. These are things, these deadly door slammers, as my mother calls them, exactly what they are. They kind of slam the door on conversation. If someone's wanting to vent or talk to you or explain something to you, if you do any of these 6 things, it's likely to shut that conversation down, which will then kind of eliminate the chance to build a relationship there. So in some situations, some of these deadly door slammers could be something you utilize, but not when you're trying to listen to understand to somebody. Okay. So the first one is tangents. And we've all been there. When you go to tell somebody you want to vent about something and someone goes off on a tangent. You said something that struck a chord in them and they want to now take over the conversation and share things. And so really, not only is that a time waster, because if you start going down the road of tangents when someone's trying to express to you, at some point you're going to need to come back and hear what they've got to say, if they're willing to stick around for that, right? But tangents really derail the conversation. The second one is criticism. So criticism or giving feedback or even constructive criticism, it can be good at certain times, but not when you're listening to understand. You want to save that for a later time. First of all, you might not have the whole story of what, if you don't listen to them and really understand where they're coming from, you might be criticizing or giving feedback about something that's completely unnecessary if you were let them to finish their conversation with you. The third thing, I'm totally guilty of this. I mean, I'm guilty of all 6 of these really, but this one, I think this may resonate with a lot of you, but telling your own story, right? So when someone comes to you with their story and you think, oh my gosh, that happened to me too. I've got a story to tell. And boy, if they hear my story, maybe that'll resonate with them, right? Maybe their story invokes a memory for you that you want to let them know about. The key thing here is wait, don't just shove your memory in there and share your story right away. It may be very relevant and it may be something they're very interested in hearing, but give the respect to hear their story first, right? and it may go down a whole different road than, and your story may be completely irrelevant to what they're getting ready to talk about. So that's a hard one. That's like holding those reins back, right? When you're dying to tell a story about something. The fourth one is giving advice or suggestions, right? So it's interesting, kind of the less we know about a problem, the more likely we think we have a solution to it. Think about that. The less we know, the more likely. So if somebody comes to us with a problem and they want to vent about it, we might immediately go, oh my gosh, I know exactly how to solve that for you. Let me give you some advice, right? So you may have some advice that would be helpful for them, but if you stay away from that for quite a while until you know they even want advice, right? Otherwise, the advice may be completely inappropriate. It may be unnecessary until you hear the whole story and make sure you know what's going on. Now, that can be a tricky one because a lot of people may come to you with a problem or want to vent about something and start out with, hey, can you give me some advice on this? How many of us have ever done that? Because it feels a little vulnerable to go say, hey, I had a big issue. I just want to talk to you about this, right? So a lot of times people come and ask for advice, but they really, it's not advice they're looking for. They're looking for a place to have a listening ear, right? So the best way you can check that out is if anybody ever asks you for advice, do the listening, do the following and reflecting. Reflect back what you're hearing them say and say, so you're wanting some ideas from me about that? And they might go, yeah, because blah, 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 blah. And then they go off on their venting, right? And so then you know, yeah, really they're here to vent. Or you can be like my husband. He's so great. He's learned to say, Anne, are you asking me for advice or you need some space to vent? And that's really important. That's been a big game changer in our relationship because a lot of times I would come and it sounds like to him something a problem I need to be solved, and he wants to solve it for me because he cares about me. But that's not what I wanted. I just needed a listening ear. If he doesn't have it, sometimes he says, go see your girlfriends, Anne. And I do, I call them up. So, okay, no advice or suggestions, not until later, until after you've listened to understand. Number 5, dismissive remarks. Now, these usually come with really good intentions, such as somebody comes to you with a problem and you want to cheer them up. So you may say, oh, it'll get better. I promise it's going to get better. Don't worry about that. Or gosh, don't focus on that. Let's go have a cup of tea and sit down and let's think of better things, right? Those are dismissive remarks. And those kind of things can really invalidate the problem that the person is bringing forth, right? It can make them sound like, oh, okay, I should just get better and cheer up. It can also imply to the person that you really don't want to listen. And truthfully, that may be what it is, because a lot of times it's really hard for us to sit back and listen to people who are coming to us with their problems. It's uncomfortable. The people we love, we don't like to see them feeling uncomfortable. What I always remember about that is what Brené Brown says, is that the longer you stay in the messy middle, the more you glean out of it. So if somebody comes to you with a problem and they're here and you try and jump over that messy middle and get them to feeling better, they're not going to gain a lot from that, right? I know with my daughters, I have 2 teenage daughters, and that's a really hard thing to, when they come to me with their problems and I want to fix them, right? There's so many of these door slammers. I want to fix them. I want to solve it for them. And I want to help them get through it. But what I've realized is listening to understand empowers them so much more if I can sit with it. As uncomfortable as it is to hear some of the problems that they're dealing with, if I can listen to it, what's great is usually they work it out themselves. And that's really empowering, right? So even back to that fourth deadly door slammer of advice or suggestions, if you can listen to someone and let them come up with their own advice, their own solution to the problem, it's so much more empowering for them, right? So if I come up with a solution, they may like that, but then if it doesn't work out, it's my fault. Whereas if they come up with a solution, then they have a little more ownership in making it work out, right? And there's a lot of aha moments that people can have when you listen to understand with them. They can reflect and hear what they're saying. So then go, oh my gosh, they can gain a lot of insight from that. So the sixth deadly door slammer is questions that lead the conversation. Okay, questions that lead the conversation. You can tell I've got my cheat notes up here that I keep looking at because I don't want to miss anything for you. But so like general questions to clarify the content of what they're talking about is fine. That's totally okay. But the kind of questions that can really derail the conversations are like questions that direct the speaker's direct the way they're going with it. So like if you say, well, when did this happen? Now, if they weren't telling you when it happened, let them get there on their own. That's kind of irrelevant. Now you're kind of taking them out of their thought process and redirecting them, right? Questions that lead the speaker to a solution, like, well, what are you going to do? So that's kind of, maybe they haven't figured that out yet. They need to vent a little more before they. So don't get them out of the messy middle and try and get them over to a solution really quick. Don't suggest a solution with a question like, well, have you ever thought of, have you ever thought about this? Or I'm really bad about this because I love books, as you can tell from my bookshelf back there. But I'm always like, have you ever read this? That's going to be really, you should check out Brene Brown, right? That's suggesting a solution there. Or sound blaming. So, gosh, didn't you realize that? Asking a question like, didn't you realize that? How did you not know they were doing that? That can sound kind of blaming, like, where was your mind when this was going down, right? They don't need to think about that right now. They're trying to process it all. Another question would be like one that where you're attempting to convince the person. So if you said something like, don't you think it's important to blah, 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 right? So that would be kind of convincing them. So the key thing here is when you're listening to understand, your role is to follow the speaker. It's not to lead the speaker. And it's not to lead the conversation. And what's really great about that is a lot of times that takes the weight off of our shoulder once we realize that. So if you're a leader and you're managing your team, or you're a parent, which is the same thing, and you're managing your family and your kids, and anytime someone comes to you with a problem, if you always feel like you've got to have the solution for them, one, that's not giving them trust that they can figure it out on their own, right? So that's not empowering them. Two, if you think you've got to have the solution, there's a weight, it's heavy, like, oh my gosh, how am I going to solve this for you? And then the whole time they're talking, you're probably going halfway between listening and trying to solve the problem for them. Like, what's the solution here, right? So by knowing you don't have to lead this and you don't have to have the solution, it kind of frees you up to just be there and completely 100% listen to them. And through that, trust that they are where they need to be, and they're going to get where they need to be. They're going to have these ahas and these insights and maybe come up with their own solution. And it might not be right away, but I really guarantee there will be some ahas there if you can stick with it. So remember, when you're asking questions, use questions only to understand or clarify, not to gain any new information. Okay, so we've got the 6 deadly door slammers: tangents, criticism, telling your own story, stay away from advice or suggestions, stay away from those dismissive remarks, and stay away from the questions that lead the conversation. I know you've got this. I really challenge you to go out and try that with a partner, maybe this evening or tomorrow, and just see what happens when you completely tune into somebody and only listen and follow and reflect. And sometimes it'll feel awkward in the beginning if you're not familiar with it, but there's always magic that happens in the relationships when you do this. So have at it. Let us know any of your results. We love to hear the success stories of anything. And also connect with Andrea and I. If the Risk Takers Dream Makers project resonates with you, and you know some women who have been like really putting themselves out there and going for their passionate purpose, and they have a story to tell, let us know. We're always collecting stories. And maybe that's you, right? So let us know if you think you're a risk taker, dream maker. We love to add to these stories. We feel like the more stories we have, the more likely we're to connect with other people and inspire them to go for their dreams, as well as champion your dreams. So thanks for tuning in tonight. We look forward to seeing you. We are going to have some more interviews coming up in August, and Andrea and I are going to be doing a workshop on fears, which we all have, the fears that kind of make us procrastinate on our dreams. So join us and keep a lookout for all of those events coming up on the Facebook page of the Risk Takers Dream Makers. Have a great evening. Bye.